welcome. One second here. I'm Chris Fromm, an industrial stormwater specialist with Hydro International. Given the number of attendees, this webinar is muted, but I've put my contact information up here for you all to write it down. I'll be sure to email you this as well as after the presentation so that I can answer any questions that you have or schedule a follow-up conversation. In today's presentation, we're going to talk about removing pollutants from industrial stormwater, and more specifically, how to use pollutant removal testing to determine what kind of results you can expect from a treatment system before you purchase or install it. The audience that will most benefit from this presentation are those working in an industrial facility that needs to make progress towards stormwater benchmarks, or engineers and environmental consultants with industrial clients. This presentation is approximately 30 minutes long, and all attendees will receive a certification for 0.5 personal development hours. A bit of background about Hydro International. We've been creating structural BMPs that treat stormwater for over 30 years. We've also helped industrial companies across the country in the metals manufacturing, waste and recycling, transportation, energy and cement industries clean up their stormwater for over a decade. So here's a quick overview of what we'll be covering during today's presentation. First, we'll talk about a facility assessment. We'll review the pollutant removal test that Hydro International is offering. Then we'll get into the who, what, when, where, and how to collect these samples appropriately to reduce the risk of tainting samples. Finally, we'll review a sample performance test data report so you can see what kind of information the testing provides. So you know you or your client has a benchmark to hit, but you need to make a formal plan for how to get to your goals. We want to partner with you to make sure you make the best decisions for your company, and the direction that you take really depends on a few things. Firstly and secondly, what are you trying to remove from your stormwater, and what are your treatment goals? Some systems are better than others at removing certain pollutants. You'll want some confidence ahead of time that whatever treatment selection you make is going to be effective at helping you hit your goals. Finally, you'll need to evaluate how much time you and/or your clients have to come up with a solution. If you need to start demonstrating progress toward benchmarks in a very short amount of time, your options are probably more straightforward. If you have more time, you may elect to do more testing and experimentation. We'll work with you to understand your needs and create a custom treatment plan that is appropriate for your situation. Here's a roadmap of what partnering with Hydro International could look like from testing through install. Now, obviously, each facility is unique, and so is their stormwater. The results of a pollutant removal test could take you in one of a few directions. You'd probably want to test runoff from all of your drainage areas for at least a few stormwater events, but depends on how much time you have. Assuming the samples are collected appropriately, we'll develop a treatment proposal, which would then move on to contract stage, after which we'd have systems fabricated and installed. Now, if samples aren't taken appropriately and we have to keep retesting, we could experience delays. Or, if you have time to experiment and you're deemed an appropriate candidate for a pilot unit testing program, you could lease a full-scale filter unit from us and have it on your site. It would need to be monitored 3 to 6 months to determine its level of effectiveness, depending on rain events. Really, though, the starting point for all of these options is the same. A pollutant removal test is when we take an industrial facility site runoff and we test it in our upflow filtration unit. We will then verify whether or not we can effectively treat your pollutants of concern and provide you with a detailed data report. The benefit to you is that we're starting with the same water that you have to treat, so it's like taking our filtration system for a test drive. You'll know beforehand what general levels of success you can expect from our system before you make any commitments. We only want to test the pollutants that you have concerns about, so as part of the pollutant removal kit we provide to you, there's a checklist where you can indicate which pollutants you want us to test. Additionally, I want to speak to you before you submit the information, ensure you're not asking for us to test a pollutant we know we wouldn't be able to effectively treat. Good news. Everyone on this call is eligible to receive a free pollutant removal test kit. If you're an environmental consultant with multiple clients and you need more than one kit, you can contact me after the webinar and we can talk about getting you as many as you'd like. The kit comes with a 5-gallon bucket, a bucket lid, gloves, a collection guidelines checklist, and Federal Express labels needed to return the kit to the hydraulics laboratory. There's no catch. The kit and the testing is free, and there is no obligation. I would want to hear about your pollutants of concern before shipping your kit off to you, though, because again, if you have pollutants that our system has not been shown to effectively remove, we don't want to waste your time. Okay, so you have your kit, now you're ready to sample. Firstly, you'll use your SWIP to identify all the drainage areas on your site. You want to sample every point of discharge from your site, paying special attention to areas where raw materials are exposed to rainfall. The best locations are pipes discharging from your site, ditches carrying only your facility's runoff, manhole access to sewers, or any area you think will need a stormwater BMP. When to sample. So when should you sample? Ideally within 12 hours of a rain event. After that amount of time, you risk tainting the sample. If your facility is in an area that doesn't get a lot of rain, keep an eye on the weather and be prepared for when rain is coming. Let me get the slide right here. The person who is going to perform the sampling should preferably be the same person for each storm event. This person should be reliable, should know all the drainage areas that are being tested, should follow the sampling guidelines checklist carefully. This person should also be instructed to keep an eye on the weather and be prepared for a rain event. Ideally, you would also designate a backup person who can step in if the original sampler is unable to perform their duties. When collecting a sample, you want to wear the gloves and use the bucket provided in the pollutant removal kit or your own bucket if you choose. Don't use smaller containers and transfer samples into the bucket. Make all recordings on the sample checklist that is included in the kit. Also, you want to make sure you're holding the bucket opening upstream of the flow of water. Here's a list of don'ts. Don't drag the bucket along the bottom of the ground. This forces a high amount of sediment into the bucket that would not typically be representative in a stormwater sample, and it skews the data. Please also don't add sediment or any other material to the bucket after you've sampled, as this will also skew the data. Keep your hands away from the opening of the bucket when sampling, and keep your hands on either side of it. And finally, don't sample from stagnant water pools or parking lots or puddles. I should say parking lot puddles. You should follow the instructions outlined on the sample checklist. Note, this guide is 2 pages and includes instructions for both the environmental consultant as well as a designated sample collector from the industrial facility. This checklist is included in the kit that you will all get free, but if you would like an electronic copy, it was also uploaded as a resource that you can access. Hydro International personnel will notify you if there are any additional instructions specific to your pollutants of concern, temperature requirement, chain of custodies, etc. There will be pouches for both the FedEx label and the sample checklist. Be sure the lid is securely fastened and ship the sample back to Hydro International. The sample will be sent to Hydro International's hydraulic laboratory, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. The lab is one of the largest manufacturer-owned testing facilities in the country and has been used in countless stormwater performance and verification testings. I mentioned that we would be using your stormwater to test on our device, but let's get a little more detail about how that works. Our column test involves using a scaled-down prototype of Hydro International's stormwater industrial filtration device, the upflow filter. The column test utilizes the same technology used by the upflow filter, but on a much smaller scale. This allows us to obtain the same performance results while using a much smaller water sample. So on the left here you see our column filter, and on the right you see a full-scale upflow filter vault unit as it's being installed. Let's run through what's happening during the column test. First, flow enters the column from the bottom where it passes through the same flow distribution media that is used in the full-scale upflow filter. Then flow passes through 8 inches of treatment media before exiting through the overflow at the top. Then, pre-treatment and post-treatment samples are taken and analyzed for pollutant composition to evaluate the effectiveness of the upflow filter. Finally, a retreatment sample is taken from a well-mixed sample provided from the test site. The post-treatment samples are taken from the overflow after the flow has passed through the scale upflow filter test column. Flow rates are measured by the time to fill method at the overflow. Column testing data is then submitted to the certified third-party laboratories for an objective analysis. The data for the raw water and the treated water is then delivered back to the industrial facility and/or environmental consultant. Once all the analysis is complete, Hydro will compile a data report that summarizes the performance information for the filter. The report will include influent and effluent data for each of the pollutants that you have asked us to test for. Hydro will work with any industrial facility and/or environmental consultant to explain testing results and make recommendations regarding appropriate next steps. If results are inconclusive due to collection errors, retesting will occur until we have results that help you make a decision one way or another. Turnaround times for getting the report vary, but can be minimized by letting us know ahead of time when sampling will be occurring. Typically turnaround times are 6 to 7 business days from the time the sample is received. Results that need to be repeated are often because of user error. In order to ensure the fastest timing possible, please be sure to 1. Follow the sampling guidelines very carefully, and 2. Consult with the Hydro International about what sampling shipping timelines are appropriate before mailing. I'm putting my contact information up here again so that you can reach out to me with any questions and arrange for me to get a kit sent out to you. At that time, we can talk about creating a custom treatment plan for your company and for your client that works for your timelines. I hope you found the session helpful, and I look forward to hearing from you individually. You should receive a follow-up email with your professional development hour certificates, as well as my contact information for your records. I'd like to thank you for your time and hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.